5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Hey everybody, you are tuned into Uptown with Mona, your go-to show for everything poetry, hip-hop, and entertainment. I'm your host, Mona Baudet, and we've got a dope show for you today. So sit back, relax, and let's get this party started right. Okay, sorry, I had the mic muted. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful to see y'all today. You know, when Tamika's not here, you know, it's something always kind of go wrong. Everything, I can never get the shit right when Tamika ain't here, you know, so y'all already know if shit go wrong, you know, oh, it's because Tamika's not here. So, listen, great show tonight. It is so dope. I mean, I have this man, he is one of those guys that I look up to when I think of really dope poets up at the top of the toe. This is one of the guys that I definitely would have aspired to be when I was younger, right? But he's great. But let me say my little saying, get it together. So I want to welcome everybody to Uptown with Mona. We meet every Monday at 7 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook, and again on Thursday at 6 p.m. on withoutwarningradio.com. Please go to Uptown with Mona, last name Baudet on Facebook, and join. That page is feeling kind of lonely. Okay. Also go to uptown.with.mona on Instagram. Please, those both of those pages are feeling real lonely. Y'all ain't giving those pages no kind of love. If you'd like to donate to Uptown with Mona, my Cash App is # Uptown with Mona. If you have an interesting story or you want to be interviewed, hit me up, uptownwithmona@gmail.com. Y'all know where to find me on Facebook. Also, December 16th at Comedy in Harlem on 147th Street and St. Nicholas Avenue at 7 p.m., The Naughty List. It's a Mocha Lounge reunion, and it's going to be crazy. It's an all erotic poetry event. So hopefully I'll get to see you all there. And if you need to get tickets, hit me up. If you need, if you want you could go to Eventbrite also if you just want to get in through Eventbrite. Okay. So I am, like I said, this gentleman is, I met him many years ago, and I know he don't remember me, but I met him so many years ago. I think it had to be at Freak Nasty or one of them events. Who knows? Because they were all, it was him and Lamar Hill. They were everywhere. So, and they like the I can't even think of the word I want to use, but they are like the gurus. And in my book, the gurus of poetry. So let me bring him up. Hold on one second. I'm going to bring him up, and we're going to bring Taalam Acey, and because he is so dope. I want to thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Would you say my
great.
name was?
Taalam Acey.
Okay.
No, you know what? Let me say something. Sometimes I kind of fuck up a name, right? I can do that. I have been pronouncing your name Taalam Acey for so many years, and I'm like, because I don't be reading, and so I was like, wait a minute, it's not Acey, it's not Lacey, it's Acey. I say, I'm like, okay, let me stop. I really need to start paying attention. But I want to tell you, you and Lamar Hill, like in my book, like I said before, are the gurus of poetry in my book.
Well, thank you, Mona.
Oh
Thank
man,
you.
you have no idea. I've seen you on many stages, you and Lamar. I've seen both of y'all on so many stages, and I aspired to be like you guys because you guys are just so dope, and you are just amazing. So
I
I wanted
appreciate
to,
that. Thank you.
hell yeah, hell yeah. I give you all the accolades I could find, without feeling like I'm sweating you, but it's the truth. I can't help it. It's the truth. So I'm gonna ask you 16 questions,
Okay.
okay? And 16 questions. I called it 16 bars. And take your time. It's like me and you just, we just chit chatting, we just, vibing. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So first thing I want to ask you is how was your day?
My day,
Mm-hmm.
relaxing, like
Yes.
most days, just kick back, thinking about the future all the time, plotting,
Yes.
planning, strategizing, trying to figure out where I want to be a month from now, a year from now, 5 years from now. What could I be doing today to help
Yes.
to facilitate where I want to be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just a lot of thinking. My days can be exhausting, but only because of thought.
Yes.
So I try to relax and think in even amounts.
Yes. And I'm always thinking about how I'm gonna rule the world. Remember the cartoon
Pinky
Pinky
and the
and the
brain.
Brain? Pinky and the
Hmm.
Brain. I'm trying to find a way to rule the world, try to take over the world. I'm always trying to take over the world, man, by any means necessary. So, it's just a joke of mine. So,
Yeah,
so I'm gonna ask you these questions, and we're gonna just hang out and talk and vibe. Okay?
let's do it.
All right, cool. First question. What inspired you to start writing poetry, and how did your journey begin?
I've been I began with poetry from the time before I could even read. My mother used to read Langston Hughes and Dudley Randall and County
Mm,
Cullen and Claude McKay and Arna Bontemps. So I that's how she taught me to read. She read to me, and the
mm,
first things that I was reading were those poets from the book The Black Poets and the anthology of Negro poetry and all of that.
mm,
So I
mhm,
mean, I go way back with poetry in terms of this iteration of spoken words.
mhm,
Um, I got into that in the 90s.
mhm.
I mean, there was the seeing Jessica Care Moore
Yes,
on the Apollo winning 5 times in a row, and it was like, oh, we back, we back to poetry
yes,
now, because Amiri Baraka uh, was already doing spoken word on his house in Newark, so they already
mhm,
had gatherings, but I didn't read poetry because those were like elders to me, and
yes,
I just kind of watched them and listen and just absorb the vibe.
mhm,
But in the 90s is when I got into it, when I got to Bogies and East Orange, which eventually led to me, being a regular at the New Eurekan in New York and the
yes,
National Black Theater in Harlem on
mhm,
125th Street, and,
mhm.
and the Brooklyn Tea Party at the YMCA over there in Atlantic
Okay.
and Brooklyn, and the
Mhm.
Brooklyn Moon and all of those things. So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
that was the 90s. And just hearing it done, when I stepped on the scene, um, the people who were like really killing it in New York. So I guess, well, I know Saul Williams had been there, but he
Dope.
wasn't there when I started, like getting
Mhm,
into it. So he
mhm,
had just kind of moved to LA,
mhm,
and who was there then would be Taylor Miley, who's white cat, cool cat,
mhm.
Sarah Jones, Lisa
Okay.
Jesse Peterson, Roger Bonero Guard, Steve Coleman, Jamal St. John, all of those people were
Yes.
kind of doing their thing, and Lynn Proco. And I don't know, listening to them, I just felt like I had to do it. I had to get back into writing poems.
Wow. Wow. Did your were your was your mother still alive at the time when you started? Is your mother still alive?
She's
Is she
still
still
alive
with us?
now. We
She's still,
talk every
so
day.
and she I'm sure she loved and she's very proud of you and what you've done and how you've accomplished with the poetry. I would say.
I suppose, I mean, my mother'd
Mm.
probably be proud of me if I was doing almost anything that I
How
enjoyed,
about
what I
that?
mean?
How about that? I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you before I go to the next question.
I should say
Do
we
you
talk almost every day. Now, I don't think we
almost
talk
every day?
absolutely
Thank
every day,
God.
but almost. We talk today. I mean, if we don't talk verbally, we're
Mhm.
always texting back and forth.
You're the only. Are you an only child or no?
I have a younger brother who
Uh-huh.
he was born when I was like 17.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
He's the baby, baby. Yeah.
right.
He's the baby. Let me ask you a question. Would you happen to remember your first poem, the first poem you ever written?
I
Or I would
remember what it
say,
was about, but I don't
uh,
remember the poem itself. I know it was called Dead President's Connection, and it was about people in our community, trying to keep money in the community and turning over dollars within the community, as many times as possible before it leaves the community. And it was called
yes.
Dead President Connection. That's what it was called. But that was the first piece I wrote. I don't remember
Damn,
anything about it other than that. Yeah. And I
you
also want to
should.
say I mentioned my brother that my mother has another son,
Uh,
much younger, who just had a birthday the other day, yesterday. In fact, it was his
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Yeah,
Happy
yeah,
birthday.
yeah. Oh, how old he turned? He turned 30 something, but
Okay, he's still a baby. He's gonna always be the baby.
30, yeah, 34, 35. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. But I have
Wow.
what I was going to tell you is I have my father has another son and daughter also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else in your family into poetry, or is it just you and your mom?
That's to my knowledge. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
My younger
That's
daughter, I have three biological children, two
okay.
girls and a boy.
Mhm.
So they're 29 and 27 are the girls. The boy is 22, and
Okay.
they have had phases. The two younger ones have had phases of being involved in poetry.
Okay. But
Yeah,
nothing where they, do like what you do.
yeah,
Was
nah,
it just like a
nothing,
phase?
nothing
It
like
was
that.
probably like a phase they went through, right?
I suppose. I mean, for all I know, they still write poems in their journals. I don't know, but I know that
Okay.
they used to actually be more into it than they appear to be now.
Okay. Yeah, how old are they? You said 29. Yeah, they doing something totally different.
My
Yeah.
oldest girl is 29, but
Mhm.
my 27
Mhm.
year old daughter, Asada, and my oldest is Nzinga, she's 29. Then my 27
Okay.
year old is Asada, and then my
Okay.
son is Talam, she's
Mhm.
22. So the two younger ones were into it
Wow, that
at
is
one
so
point.
that is so nice. Any grandkids? None
Nah, I
yet.
don't have no grandkids. I'm 54, no grandkids.
Well, we'll see. You'll see.
And I have four children. We're a blended family. So my wife brought four children, and I have three, so it's seven altogether. And
Congratulations on the
thank you,
marriage.
thank you.
Congratulations.
So it's like they go from 31 to 22, all
Okay.
seven, and no grandkids. And
Okay.
as far as I know, none on the way. As far as I know, but my 27-year-old daughter's married. She's the only one of the seven children that are married.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next question. Can you describe your creative process when writing a new poem?
Oh man, I believe poems are organisms. You know what I mean? So I like a poem to tell me what it wants to be.
Okay.
So until I get that first line that I can't forget, that I can't get out of my head, the poem doesn't even start. It's got to be some line. I can tell where your scars are just by the way you walk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There's a market for niggas that target figures that purchase $100,000 jewelry. It's got to be that first line, and
Right.
then from the first line, I try to figure out what the next line wants to be. Like, what does the first line want to be followed by? And then that brings that second line to life, and the constant on and on. All right, well, that's that line. Well, what does it want to be followed by? What line wants to be born from that? And then I
Wow.
just keep going, line after line after line. I write in my head. And I just
Wow.
so
Wow.
anything that you've seen me perform on a stage was written
Yeah.
not extemporaneously, but it was written in my head. So I write and
Okay.
edit the pieces in my mind.
Got it.
And yeah, my last piece that nobody's even heard is it was written in my head. It's 8 minutes long. I surprised myself to be 54 years old and write an 8 minute piece in my head.
Wow, wow, that's cool. That's cool. I'm the same. I don't write 8-minute pieces. No, I'm not. But I do. I can write one line. I'll write one line and be like, I'll get back to that later, and then I
all the
might.
time.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is a good thing about writing in my head because
Mm-hmm.
I can get back to it at any time. When I first started doing spoken word, people were, writing in poetry books, but they'd lose their books on the subway or the PATH train, or and then
Mm-hmm.
or and they misplace a book bag or something. Somebody break in their car, steal all their stuff, and then now they got to start from scratch. So I always
Right.
did it in my head,
Yes.
and sometimes I'm working on concepts that I may have come up with originally a year or two ago. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It
Let
just
me tell
wasn't
you,
time.
I just found my old poetry book. I have
Mm.
put it away and forgot all about it because I'm doing something different. And then I'm cleaning out a drawer or something. I was the bookcase or something, and I was like, "Oh shit!" And I'm looking at the poetry that I did now, as opposed the poetry I do now, as opposed to the poetry I did years and years ago, and I see the difference. But I'm like, wow, some of these
Yeah.
pieces are pretty good. I'm like, oh shit, I need to revamp some of these pieces.
Yeah,
You
no
know,
chance of that for me. And they no old poetry books laying around nowhere.
I know, right?
Yeah, if I get amnesia or something,
Right.
that's it.
I
But
know,
when
right?
it comes time for me to sell it, I'll record it. So
Right.
there have been CDs and of course now streams, and
Yes.
then books. So
Mhm.
that's where I would have to go to see my old poems. But I mean, some of my poems from even then, they're poems from the '90s. I still do, and people still like love. Like
Mhm.
she conjures, a VD clinic, marbles. I mean, those poems go back to the '90s.
Wow. Yeah, I'm hoping maybe you'll get to do one of them pieces for me later on, but let me get to some of these questions, okay?
Sure.
Number 3. How do personal experiences influence your work?
Well, I've always been the type of person that feel like if you're gonna tell a story, you got to tell it. So if I start a
Yes.
poem about something in my life,
Mhm.
unless I'm prepared to tell you the full story or whole story, I won't do it.
Okay.
And so a lot of the poems, particularly the ones about like, in introspection, reflection, depression,
Mhm.
those thoughts like that are definitely born from my living experiences.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes sense. Yeah, because a lot of my pieces, I don't know if you remember, I'm an erotic poet. And so a lot of my pieces are embellished thoughts or experiences that I may have or may not have, experienced. But I embellish. My mind goes everywhere when I do that, which is perfect for me, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. What themes do you find yourself exploring most in your poetry?
Love. For me, love is the opposite side of the coin of like depression and introspection. So
Okay.
for a love, in other words, or to clarify, if I write a love poem, my primary thought is what would I want someone to say to me and mean to make me feel better. You know what I mean?
Yes.
What sincere things would I want somebody to communicate to me to make me feel appreciated? So if I write
Yeah.
a love poem, that's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Somebody, William
But
Washington.
I write about politics, of course, and social
Okay.
economics and
Yes.
all that stuff. Yeah.
So I have someone asked, he has a few questions actually, but I'm gonna ask you, let me see. His name is
William
William Wash
Washington.
Yep, William
Yeah.
Washington.
Well,
Um,
you just said his name, but I do know who he is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
He said, please ask Salam how he memorizes and writes his poems mentally as opposed to writing them down on paper. That was probably from the previous question that I had asked you.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the stuff I write on paper, because
Okay.
I think it comes too quickly. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Whereas the the process is to, write in my head and
Mm-hmm.
then wait hours or maybe even the next day sometimes and see
Yeah.
if I still remember what I wrote. Because in my mind, if I don't remember it, then it wasn't memorable. You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's a constant process of so in writing that way, I forget a lot of stuff, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But in my mind, it just wasn't worth remembering. It just wasn't important enough. And
Okay.
if it was that memorable, I would have known it. I would have remembered it the next day, you know.
Right.
And that causes that creates a certain process. So there's the benefit of that, right? Because it keeps you honest, right? In terms of your writing, you only want to
Okay.
write the freshest stuff, the stuff that that you remember. Number one. Number two, you don't have to look around for a pen and paper. If you're laying in bed about to go to sleep, or you just wake up in the morning, you ain't got to, jump up and run around to find a book. You just start writing, in your head. So you don't have to look for the pen and the paper. And particularly with the editing, like the type
Mhm.
of editing that I can do in my head is crazy.
Wow.
I can pull lines from here and there. I can flip the poem around. I can do all kinds of copy, cut, paste, things that you really couldn't fathom on paper.
I can't do that.
Yeah,
I can't. I have to write shit down because if not, I forget it's gone. The thought is gone as soon as I think about something else. I write everything down. I have to, and I've been
right.
doing that for years. I write. I mean, I
But
copy.
yeah,
Mhm.
I've never recommended it. I
Yeah.
think that everyone's writing process is their own. If somebody
Yes.
tells me they write with a pen and paper, like I think Buddy Wakefield, I think 13 of Nazareth does too, but I think Buddy Wakefield does. And I mean, what he does is incredible. I
Mhm.
think most of the poets I know, if not, they're all of them write on paper. And I know some pretty dope poets. But for
Mm.
me, when I've written on paper, if I go to a studio with you
Yes.
and you like, we're going to write a poem about this, that's about the only time that I would sit down with a piece of pen and paper and just write something real quick. You know what I
Okay.
mean? But if you give me the time, like if you want me to really write something, I need the time to put it together in my head. Now that could be done in a couple of weeks. You know,
Mhm.
some poems I've written in a matter of days.
Right.
But I would love, if you really want something good for me, man, I love to just stretch out, let it take some months.
Right.
Give me a month or two to write it. You know,
Mm. Mm-mm. Yeah, I understand that because I've done that too. But I try to write because I move on so fast. I just move on so fast. All right, I'm done with that. Let me start something different. You know
well,
what I mean?
that's how I take writing on paper for me. When I write
Okay.
on paper, it's like when a rapper is rapping off the top of their head. It's
Mm-hmm.
only fresh really in that moment.
Right.
So in that moment, they like, ooh, he said something about your sneakers, or oh word, yo, he was talking about your coat. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's fresh in that moment, but then you go back next week or 2 weeks from now and you play it, it ain't
Yeah.
really fresh no more because the only thing that made it hot was that they were talking about what was going on in that moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
So with
Right.
me with paper, like if I sit down and I write on paper, it's
Mm-hmm.
fresh when I write it, and I think it's the most incredible thing in the world. Then I go back to
Yes.
it a week or two later, and I'm like, Dad, that's what I thought was dope, you know.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
when I'm writing in my head, it's not like that because it's a constant process of
Okay.
throwing stuff out and throwing stuff out, and this ain't worth remembering. And what did I say? All right, I got to rewrite it then because I don't remember. So it's a QA, you know. It's
Yes.
a quality control, quality analyst type situation.
Yes. Thank God for cell phones, right? Because you can edit on I edit on my cell phone. I have a whole yeah, that's how I do mine now. I used to write on paper. Now I use my cell phone and because I have an iPhone, it automatically saves to my phone to my computer, which is
Uh,
perfect for me, which is perfect, you know. Yeah.
I'm sure you could do that with an Android too, but that's another
I'm not
story.
Android. I am not Android.
I, I
I'm
had
not.
I had paid for. I remember at one point, my son, my daughter, my wife,
Uh,
everyone. I was paying for iPhones. I even had an iPhone, but I didn't use it. I only used my Android, and the iPhone I
right.
just used it like as a calculator.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
funny. I don't even know how to use an Android phone.
Same
And we
thing with me with an
we
iPhone. I'll be
started
like, yo, what the hell was they thinking? Like,
right.
and
And
it's
we
funny because when
started with
Steve Jobs was
Android.
around, he would say that,
Yeah.
you don't have to learn how to work this because, you already know it works the way you do. I'm like, that thing don't work like I don't even think like that.
Listen, I remember when we started with fucking when I had a BlackBerry. Easy. It was
I
the
used to
easiest
love
thing
that
to.
black man. I had
Me
two. I had two black,
too.
two different. One was red and the other one was black, I think. Yeah.
Me too. I love the BlackBerry, and then they switched to the touch tone phone, and I'm like, I don't like this shit. I want my fucking
Yeah.
BlackBerry back.
Yeah, I
And
hated.
then
Yeah, I hated touch screens.
then
Yeah,
you get
I
used
had a
to it.
BlackBerry when touch screens
Yep.
came out, and my boy before we had, because at one point only like rich people and politicians had Blackberries, and
Right.
my boy
Right.
had like the whole forgot
Like
what
the
the
note. It was
sidekick.
like
He
the
had the
note. It was like
sidekick.
the note. Right. Oh shit, the
Yeah, and
sidekick.
yeah, he would flip it, and then he could get online and show and
Yes.
websites look like
Yeah.
they look, on your computer, and it was like a big deal, you know what I mean? And
Yep.
then I got the BlackBerry, so I felt like I was like, yo, I just one upped you, my man, Will the
Right.
Real One, the brother that well, here's the album by the way, the brother that
Uh-huh.
this last album
Okay.
was about or
Uh-huh.
dedicated to, Will the Real One. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
he had that sidekick, was always showing off.
Oh, that is so funny. Oh my God, that is so funny. All right, guys, I want to tell you guys, everybody that's here listening, if you have any questions for Taalam AC, please put it in the chat and I'll try to get to as many as I possibly can before the end of the show. Okay.
And thanks, William, for that question, Mr.
Yeah,
Washington. Thank
he
you.
has another one, but I want to get to some questions and I'll in the interim, I'll be, doing that back and forth. All right. So, question 5. How do you define your poetic style and how has it evolved over the years?
Very, very. So hip hop is a culture, right? MCing is part of that culture, right? It's MCing, graffiti, breakdancing, b-boying, DJing. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so it's all part of that culture, and it influences me. I came up in it. I came up through. I was born in the '70s, in 1970, so I came up with the whole hip hop culture. So my style is very, very hip hop influenced.
Okay.
The lyricism, the cadence, the rhythm, the imagery.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's also spoken word, so it's not something. Oh, hold up.
What? I can't hear you. Hold on one second. Let's get it together.
Sorry about that.
Okay, there we go. I'm like, what the hell was that?
Now, my wife was calling me, and I had told her I was doing a podcast, but she kept
Right,
calling,
right.
so I think maybe she forgot.
Yeah, she might have forgot.
Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah.
let me ask you this. Go ahead. Finish.
So that's the style. It's very like urban, very
Mm-hmm.
because of who I want to reach. There was a time I came to I would perform in New Jersey and perform in New York. And in New
Right.
York, I primarily performed at the New Eurekan. And the New
Yeah.
Eurekan was made up of mostly white people. And they
Right.
were either college students from Columbia or NYU, or they were tourists, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And and so they preferred a certain type of poetry, more of a prose, not a poetry that didn't rhyme. It was
Mm-hmm.
something like that, and then traditional page poetry, but recited. And
Right.
then at Bogies in East Orange, it was hood. Like you could get hurt up in there. You messing around the wrong way.
Right.
And I loved it. And I had to make a decision. And they was like, yo, you had to rhyme there. They needed rhythm. They needed puns. You had to be clever. You know what I mean? You had to entertain them. They paid their hard-earned money. Like I
Right.
was telling somebody else, some of them brothers ain't even want to be there. Either their woman wanted to be there or they were there to
Right.
meet a woman. You know what I mean?
Right.
But they, you
Mm-hmm.
had to bring it. So my style was more of I kind of gravitated away from the New York thing because I enjoyed more the juke joint aspect of spoken word. I enjoyed more, talking to brothers and sisters who was like, and getting it from the dirt. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
like that. I liked it.
Me
I still
too.
do. I love it. Still chase it.
That's right. That's the hood. I call it hood
My
poetry, and I love
yeah,
everything about it.
my
Yeah.
my favorite demographic, my
Hmm.
favorite part of my demographic are
Okay.
people who came up uh say low income, maybe,
Hmm.
they came up at risk, and then they, did whatever they had to do, whether it was go to college or, learn a skill or a trade. and they became self-sufficient, independent, and now they're, fairly well off. They've got savings, investments, resources, but they
Yeah.
came from that street thing. You know what I mean? And it's still there. It's still somewhere in the back. It'll come out if need be. But
Hmm.
yet they're like culture at the same
Yeah.
time now. They've grown, into responsible, maternal and paternal figures.
Okay. All right. So Nicole Hill, my homegirl J Nicole, she asked, when you first started, did you have a signature piece or go to a piece you performed, or a go-to piece that you performed?
I mean, it's funny because She Conjures is my forever go-to piece. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
I like to say it. I like the way it feels. I like to think about it when I'm saying it. Sometimes it makes me happy.
You want to
Beautiful
say it
picture.
now? Feel like saying it
I'll say,
now?
yeah, sure.
Come on, let's hear it.
This is the first poem I've done too, and first time I performed a poem in probably 2 or 3 months now. Probably,
Okay.
no, maybe a couple of months. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess it's always with you. You know what I mean? There
Yes.
is there is something about the way she conjures the ancestors. She dances when she walks like she's from the Congo. Pure. Combo like Asada Shakur says, brothers don't understand the science behind her self-reliance. She
Mm.
has a tattoo of Noble Drew on her neck and a tattoo of Marcus Garvey on her breast, and says you got to have the presence of Martin Delaney if you ever hope to have a future. And getting past her Malcolm X, she is smooth as the Hennessy she's sipping as we listen to Horace Silver playing our third game of chess. And I can't help but stare into the natural texture of her hair. She compares George Padmore with CLR James. And from there, she discusses Rodney's, how Europe underdeveloped Africa, and compares that to Kwame Nkrumah's neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism. And as her lips move, I get lost in her rhythm.
Ooh.
And as her thoughts move, I get lost in her wisdom. I
Mm.
love it when she sings CC Watu to the children. I love when we go on vacations and she puts that homemade sign on the door that says, "Do not disturb." Nation building. She is Harriet Tubman, loving her people with a passion, fashion, like that last chapter in Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro. We go conjure the ancestors after every poetry reading, breathing life into the souls that surround us like New Orleans, constantly calling me back. I bathe her in compliments. I wrap her confidence around my waist. I taste her ancestors' DNA every night because there's something spiritual about swallowing the same fluids that once coursed the physical forms of her predecessor slaves and tribes. And yo,
Oh my
you
God.
might you might think you know me,
Mm.
but if you ain't never seen me with her, then you ain't never seen me alive. I
Ooh,
said
we.
you might think you know me, but if you ain't never seen me with her, then you ain't never seen me alive. She goes from J.A. Rogers to Abu Bakr. Her heart beats the rhythm of the Haitian Revolution, and she dances to it, singing the songs of the Cimarron colonies of San Salvador. And as she moves, there's something about the way she conjures the ancestors. There's something about the way she conjures my soul by day and by night. There is something
Mm.
about the way that she has conjured me back from the dead. There is something about the way that she conjures me continuously, y'all, back to life. Yeah, that's that piece.
Oh, boy. Oh my God. Love you. I
Thank
fucking love
you.
you. I love your dope piece.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me see. Did anybody else ask any question? Oh, D
Yo,
Cross.
tell them I'm gonna just keep throwing stuff up there too. So
Yes,
tell them
throw it
that
up.
that
Put it up
poem is
there.
in the first book, which is Triple Soul
Yes.
Refinery 1. So what I did is it's a whole compendium of like the first 12 to 15 years, and this is the second 12 to 15 years. These two books, they're like
Yes.
300 pages each. But that one is in this book, the first one, which is Trouble
Okay.
Soul Refinery 1. All of them
Okay.
available on my website.
Cool.
See,
Cool.
I'm trying to like learn how to do more because I generally won't even bring stuff like that up.
Right.
But
No,
I've
no, no. You
noticed
have to
that,
bring it up.
it's like you're
You
doing
got
people a disservice if you have something that they want. You don't even tell them you got it.
thank you. Hello. Yep. Cause Kasim says hey.
Or tell Kasim I
Who
said,
else?
what's up?
He can hear you.
What's up?
D Cross said what's up.
What's up, D
And
Cross?
let's see who else. And that's it right now. Okay, let me ask you question number 6. Okay.
Kasim is an incredible lyricist. D
Oh
Cross, too. D
yes.
Cross is also a
Oh
beatbox.
yes. let me tell you something about Kasim. Kasim has had, I met when I first met Kasim, I've always had, he always has like a soft spot in my heart, if that makes sense. And like wherever I see him, what, you hungry? You okay? And it's not like a crush or anything. It's just he just, oh my God, he just makes me want to cry sometime because he's just such a dope person. And I really and truly love this guy. Like he's I just do. I always have. I don't know what it is about him, but I just have. Matter of fact, I'm working on another erotic, my second erotic CD, and he just finished sending me a
That's
piece
dope.
to add to that. Yeah, he anytime I need help, he's there. Wonderful,
Yeah, he
wonderful.
works up. He reminds me, him and Lasana remind me of each other in that they are
Yes,
dedicated to working with the youth, to
yes, yes. Yeah,
particularly young
yeah.
black men,
That's right.
So I
Yeah,
think that probably comes out in a lot of the things he does.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, number six. Who are some poets or writers that have significantly influenced your work?
Wow, I want to tell you, and it'd be true, Mary Baraka,
Mm-hmm.
Gil Scott Heron, and
Mm-hmm.
Last Poets, and the Watts Prophets, Father Amdi.
Yes.
You know, Kalamu Salam from New Orleans. I laugh because he used to write erotic poems, in addition to his other work. And when I was a kid, not a kid, when I was, I guess, in my late teens, early 20s, I used to go around with some of his work and like read them when I was going on dates and stuff, like to get the mood set, so it's
Right,
funny.
right.
Kalamu
That's funny.
Salam, Kamal Daoud in
Mhm.
LA is, I mean, his ability to paint pictures is ridiculous. S. Pearl
Wow.
Sharp,
Mhm.
Mama Nana Camille Yarborough up
Mhm.
there in Harlem.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, love it.
Wow.
I'd say Umar Ben Hassan probably like huge influence.
Mhm.
One of the last poets.
Yeah.
Abio Duniwele is a influence, but not just in his poetry, but kind of just as a person. I think
Yes.
in the times that I've interacted with him. Yeah.
Yes. Very dope. I've shared a stage with Baba Abiodun quite a few times. He's a dope person, period. He's just a dope person. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, all right, let's go to number
Oh,
7.
oh, 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 hold up.
Yeah,
That
okay.
was I lost my whole point. My point was for me to say those names. I mean, it's like, yeah,
Yes.
of course, but like I think it would be more significant to mention people like who are like more current, right?
Okay.
And not by more current. I mean, the elders are illustrious and they're like sitting in the pantheon like the gods or something, But in
Yes.
terms of people who are like out there right now and in my age, um, who influences? I have a lot of respect for what Ed Mabry does,
Okay.
and where he's going, and that he stretches,
Mhm.
his ability. I would say Sonny Patterson, but you really can't duplicate what she does. It's
Yes.
kind of like I want to say it's like me because I'm just being me, and I think she's just
Okay.
being her. But I want to say you can't duplicate what I do, but certainly many people try.
Yes.
They
Yeah,
do
yeah.
try. Yeah.
They could try
Buddy
all they
Wakefield.
want.
Yeah, Buddy Wakefield is dope. 13, of
Okay.
course, is dope. Yeah.
Mhm.
I could go on. And I hate to name contemporaries because of the people that I'll leave out. And then when this conversation is over, I'll be like, oh man, I should have said so and so.
It's okay. You
Yeah.
know, they understand. People understand. So I already asked you this question, but maybe you may have another one. Can you share a particular poem that is especially meaningful to you and why? I've just asked you that. You just spit one.
She
Do you have
conjures, yeah.
another one?
She conjures is meaningful to me because it was a picture that I was
Yeah.
painting of the ideal woman. I wasn't talking about anyone in particular when I wrote that poem. It was my imagination and my fantasy that I was writing about. You
Got it.
know, poems, God's work, very dear to me because I feel like, well, I know I wrote it for poets. I wrote it to encourage poets, and
Mm-hmm.
it hits its mark because
Yeah.
poets to this day love the poem, and
Yeah.
that's what it was written to do. to
You feel
make
like
poets understand that they're far more significant in many cases than they could ever imagine that they are.
okay. Let me see. Somebody, I think someone asked a question. No, Keith Eric, he just gave me an emoji. Okay. Do you want to share a couple of lines of that piece or you want to wait? You feel like sharing a couple
Um,
of lines of that poem?
I'll do the whole piece whenever you think it's the right time to do
It's
it.
up to you. Anytime. Listen, we got all the time you
We can
need.
close. We can close with it then.
Okay, cool. All right. So we'll go to question number 8. How do you engage with your audience during live performances?
It's natural, and
Yes.
that's actually the hardest part about spoken word for me is that talking here on your platform or anyone else's platform or
Right.
a video that I might make. You were talking about a video I made on that I posted on Instagram today about
Mm-hmm.
the Grammys and everything. I
Yeah.
don't I don't think I stand out, in that arena, in that medium, you know what I mean? But live is completely different. Like what my capability, God-given ability of
Yes.
making people feel things live is
Mm-hmm.
natural, it's organic, so
Yes.
you put me on a stage and you give me a crowd, I can feel it.
I've seen you
I'll
on
show up,
stage.
I'll show up early sometimes and listen,
Mm-hmm.
to not just listen to the poets that come before you, listen to the conversations. Listen
Yes.
to I can feel the energy in the room, and
Mm.
I can inhale it, and then breathe it out in a
Yeah.
different fashion. So what
Yeah.
I'm capable of doing live is leagues beyond what I can do virtually, which is
And I'm
why I'm not a
I'm telling
fan
you.
of virtual. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I don't do a lot of virtual interviews. Somebody tell me that
Exactly.
something's going to be on Zoom, for instance. I'm like, oh man, I don't. I try to stay away, like, because I know that live, you put me in the room, I can feel it, and
Mm.
people know you can feel it. You know what I mean? They know that you're in tune with the
Yes.
energy of the room.
Yes, thank you. So let me thank you again for doing this interview with me since you said you don't really like doing interviews and stuff. I love it. Thank you so much for doing that. And I want to tell the audience, if y'all haven't seen this man perform live, Lord have mercy. You would definitely be in for a wonderful treat hearing him live.
Thank you for
Yeah,
welcoming
yeah.
me to your
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
I
I
do.
really
I
appreciate it.
wonder though, like,
Hmm.
because my first inclination for everything these days is no,
Yeah,
and I do wonder how that would be taken because it wouldn't be personal. It
right.
just it just be my comfort zone.
You're right. No,
But I'm
it's
having a good time. It's one of
thank
those things where people say it's like a hot shower at the end of the night. Like, you're tired, you just want to get in
uh,
bed. You don't want to get in
uh,
no shower. But then
right.
the minute you get in the shower, now you don't want to get out.
Right, right. Thank you. I appreciate the analogy. All right, number 9. What role do you believe poetry plays in today's society?
Not enough of a role.
Mm,
It's wild. I went back and read Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, and he wrote that
okay.
book, and he put that book out in 1776. And it's the
Okay.
book that defines capitalism. I was reading it just for a better understanding of money. And this is after I already had a BS in accounting, an MBA in finance. I had already taught college, had already had a consultant firm. I still wanted to go back to it. I think it was The Wire, with Stringer
Okay.
Bell, and they killed him. And they
Yeah.
went to his house and they saw that he had The Wealth of Nations in his bookshelf. And I was like,
Mm,
damn, that's that book we used to read about in college, but I didn't read it. So I actually
right.
just went and read it. And it just
Hmm.
bugged me out because he literally talked about poetry and how people don't appreciate it and how people admire poets and the ability that poets have, but they don't want to pay for it,
Mm,
and they don't want to, put too much time into it, to listening to it. But
right.
man, I think that message and the energy, because it's code. I call it cold blues. It's coded blues. You're giving people lessons about life, and
Yes.
you're just encoding it, as a poem. When it's done right, I I think I write spells,
Mm.
I mean, all of those, it's all connected, right? So I feel like I write spells, and you can use spells to write, like, say, certain songs that bring people down. They could be negative spells, and you can write
Hmm.
positive spells. And I try to write positive, and it's all connected, right? Singing comes from incanting and cantere, and which is to enchant and to chant, and you go on, all of the spells, the enchanting, the incanter, all that, it's all connected.
Yes.
And when people say that words don't matter, words, everything I got came from words.
When
You
you
know what I mean?
say
This whole house,
yes,
it come from words.
when you say enchanting and spells, I just thought about Ayaba Mandingo because that's
That's my
how he
dude.
spits. That's how he
That's my dude.
spits. Hmm. I interviewed
Yeah,
him a few seasons ago. Yeah.
yeah.
So
I was trying to
that's
get him to do. We he did some painting for me one
yeah.
year. I tried to get him to come back the second year. It was, I don't know. He wasn't. I couldn't get him. Couldn't get to him. It's
Mm-hmm.
my
He's
dude.
always online. He's always drawing online.
Yeah,
Always.
maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have called him
Should have got online,
the
right?
second time. The first time I called him, I got him. Maybe I shouldn't have called him the second time.
Yeah. All right. Number 10. How do you balance your personal voice with the expectations of your audience?
That's the only voice. My
Yes.
personal voice is the only voice.
Mhm.
There's no voice that was manufactured or engineered to speak to the audience.
Yeah.
That's what I love about the best poets to me are when they get up on stage and do their poem, and then you talking to them after, and they sound just like they sounded when they were on stage. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And the same way that I talk is the same way I do poems, which is
Yes.
why it's funny to me if someone imitates what I do, because it's not them, and they don't talk like that and they don't act like that. It's like they're not them. They start talking to you after they get off stage. They don't sound like that.
Right.
I do, you know. So I
Right.
don't have, but what I do have is the ability to figure out the common ground between
Yes.
me and the person that's listening. So I do
Yes.
know how to speak the way, speak with my own voice, but communicate so that you understand, where I'm coming from, to
Mhm.
reach you where you are from where I am, so
Right.
that, we understand each other.
I get it. I understand that. Yep. Okay. Number 11. What challenges have you faced as a poet and how have you overcome them?
It's funny. I was laughing earlier. Probably people don't even know why. You don't either. But you
Mm-mm.
were talking about when you first met me, and you was like, you was drinking and all this shit. You was like,
Yeah.
yo, he shouldn't even be drinking. You know what I mean?
I know,
I
right?
think, yeah, I think that was a challenge, and it's funny because the last alcohol I had was May. This past May.
Okay.
And I want to be like act like that's a big deal, but it's really not because it wasn't necessary. I don't know that
Right.
it ever was, but
Mhm.
I know that in the time that you were talking about, it was a much different life.
Yes.
I was very sedentary.
Mhm.
I was, I might have slept on the subway that night you saw me. You know what I mean? So
Wow.
I was
Yeah.
sleeping on trains and in bus stations and train stations. How many times I sleep in New York Penn Station? You know what I mean?
Wow.
Um, I would, I slept on Chicago's red and blue line all night long, many nights, many
Mm.
nights. And I say to myself that I think drinking helped back then. I think it was very helpful,
I
to
think
have been drinking when I was going through, when I was out, in the cold and all night long and so on and so
yeah.
forth. But it's an old paradigm. So I
Right.
think the struggle with spoken word it was very difficult for me when there wasn't a lot coming from it. And I had a lot of things bearing down on me at the same time. I had,
Mhm.
we talked about my kids being, my oldest being 29,
Yeah.
my oldest biological. But, at the time, they were like in their single digits when I first got into poetry. And I still
Mhm.
had to take care of them. I still had to, make sure that there was money there.
Right.
And I wasn't with their mother. So, like, I was married somewhere else in Baltimore. So I had to
Okay.
pay rent there. I mean, imagine selling CDs, poetry CDs at that. to pay
Yes.
rent and
Mm.
child support, for 3 children.
What a hustle.
And
That was the
yeah,
hustle.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and if I slept in a subway, it wasn't necessarily because I didn't have the money. It was that if there were better uses for the money. If you left a venue at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, it didn't make no
Mm.
sense to get a hotel room to leave at 11 o'clock in the morning. You know what I
Right.
mean? Why not just like take a nap on the train and then go to the airport or something like that, or go straight to the
Okay.
airport and take a nap there? So
Okay.
the answer to your question is the difficulty was when resources were far and few in between,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just trying to do what I love to do, which was perform
Mm-hmm.
poetry. But it was hand to mouth. I couldn't even afford really to spend the money that I was making because I had to put it toward my children and toward my household with my wife that I was with at the time in Baltimore.
Right. Yeah, that had to be somewhere around 2010, 2011.
Yeah, I
'Cause
say
that's
from
around the time I
2000.
started.
Yeah, yeah, so you probably caught me at the end then. That was
Mm.
like that was the nadir. I'd say
Okay.
2000, yeah, by 2013, I was damn near wiped out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, because that's when I didn't see you after that. I didn't see you for a while. I didn't see Lamar Hill
yeah,
for a while. And I'm like, well, where these guys at? But
yeah. I think by 2013, I was damn near wiped out. 2014, so 2015 was me just coming back to life. I
got
have a
it.
hard time even to this day convincing myself that I didn't die in
Mm.
2012.
Mm-hmm. Nah. Mm-mm.
Yeah, everybody says no, but I think they
Nah.
have to because that would mean they're dead too.
Wow. Number 12. Are there any specific messages or emotions you aim to convey through your work?
I want people to, I want to take the lessons I've learned in life and communicate them to people in a very receivable way. To kind of
Mhm.
like we talked about spells. I want to kind of like hypnotize people to be their best, to do their
Yes.
best, to be their best self. What did I
Mhm.
learn? What mistakes did I make? And
Mm.
how do I encode that to a poem? And and
Yeah.
and 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 when I'm finished, you got more. You got more
Yes.
resources. You got more resources in terms of like financial resources, more resources in terms of a toolbox to help you deal with life and to excel. I mean
Yes.
that's what the books are about. Matter of fact, remember I mentioned earlier I talked
Mhm.
about Father Amdi from the Watch Prophets. I talked about Abiodun and
Yes.
Umar bin Hassan. I talked about S. Pearl Sharp and Kamal Daoud in LA and Kalamo Yasalam in New Orleans and Nana Camille Yarbrough in
Yes.
Harlem. They're all in this book. So during
Okay.
COVID, I was traveling around interviewing them. So while everybody else was like quarantined in their home,
Right.
I went to Flint, Michigan to talk to Umar. I talked to Abiodun in Philly. I went to the Redlands up in Northern California to talk to Baba Amdi because I wanted to get their lessons. I wanted to know. I wanted to know what did they learn.
Okay.
What did they learn that I don't have to repeat. So when I write a
Right.
poem, it's the same thing. And
Right.
I tell people even with this book, and this was the only hardcover book I ever did, you know.
Mm.
And I tell people with this book that your next poem, your next album worth of poems will come out of their stories. The things
Right.
that they tell you about history and music and intersection, stuff you never thought about.
Yes.
If you're a musician, your next album of music coming from that book. You're a
Mm.
writer, your next novel, your next, book of essays is coming out of that. It's going to be that's source material.
Wow. William Washington says he has that book. Keith Eric says, I saw this brother live in Columbus, Ohio. His
Columbus,
performance
Ohio.
personally, he said his performance personally helped me in see and appreciation in my own poetry. Again, got his book as well, A Dope Individual. You have
Yo,
a
tell
nice
them
following.
thank you to
He
both of
can
y'all.
hear you. They can hear you. They can hear
Thank you to
you.
both of y'all.
All right, number 13. How do you see the relationship
Do you
between
hear a button and 13 comes up, or is it automatic? Like, does it cut you
no,
off and be like
I hit a
13?
button. I hit a
Okay.
button. I hit a button.
All right.
I had to learn how to do all of this because normally I have someone named to
You
me,
good
my
at it.
girl.
You're good at it.
No, I'm getting better. I used to fuck it up when I first started doing this
It
myself.
seems seamless. It seems seamless now.
When Tamika ain't here, anything could happen. So I'm just keeping
Because
it.
questions pop up. I'm like, damn, did they just cut her off? But it's you. You're doing
No,
it. You're
that's
cutting
me.
yourself off. Okay,
How do
I
you
got it.
see the relationship between poetry and music in your own work?
Um, when I really got in spoken word back in the '90s, I was
Hmm.
listening to mad hard bop jazz, and by hard bop jazz, I mean what came after bebop, right?
Right.
And before cool
Yeah.
jazz, after bebop jazz was hard bop jazz. You're talking about Art Blakey, Horace
Hmm.
Silver, the whole Miles Davis kind of blue thing, the Eric
Yes.
Dolphy, all of that. So I was listening to a lot of that. Oscar Oliver Nelson, Freddie Hubbard. And
I love
I think
Freddie
it
Hubbard.
came through. I think all of that came through. So
Mhm.
there are two things about me at that time was that I was listening to a lot of jazz and I was studying Tai Chi Chuan. It's
Okay.
so the hand movements that I do that a lot of people kind of started picking up on was because I was practicing Tai Chi and it was just natural to me to move like that when I was performing.
Hmm.
And in terms of the rhythms, it came from I listened to a lot of hard bop, a lot of Art Blakey, a lot of Jackie McLean
Yes.
kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started doing when I was with my old man years ago. He was a jazz trumpet player, and all I would listen to is jazz, 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 jazz. Freddie Hubbard happens to be one of my favorite jazz artists from back in the day, and
If that's a
he played.
request of mine,
Yes.
somebody want to. If it's a band there, I might ask them if they know Red Clay. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Play that bass line. Yeah. So
Listen,
so
okay.
so musically, yeah. If there's a band, I can get in there with the band, and we'll find some stuff that they could play, and I can
Yeah.
do poems over that. Particularly like Scars or Brotherly Love or She Conjures. There's
Mm,
particular poems that are really easy to do for me
yes.
over music.
Mm.
Hmm.
I would love to see you perform again. I haven't seen you perform in so many years.
You
I'm
may
just
never see me perform again, not because I
shut
won't, but
up. Shut up. Don't say that.
we don't
Shut up.
necessarily. I mean, you're there. I'm here. I don't travel as much.
Me
I
either,
used
but
to
we'll
I used to
figure it
travel
out.
and I used to travel incessantly. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that was the other thing for not really being in hotels a lot. They said Billie Holiday was like that. That they
Really?
wouldn't stay in hotels every night.
Mm,
They would they would work it so that they could only go they would go to a hotel every other night or every 3 nights.
okay. Hmm. Listen, Siege, Empress the poet, poetry interest, Empress says greetings. Faraji Salam says, he says, what's up? Peace, Salam.
Tell them I said peace. I guess you got people listening. Tell Faraj I said peace.
Yeah,
I
he
thought
can
I thought
hear
it was just
you.
gonna be me and you. I don't know. When people
Yeah,
say they're
no,
gonna do a
this
podcast, I just think it's gonna be me and them
nah,
and like
this is live. My show is live, so people and
yeah,
I
it's
do
a
my
lot of
show
live stuff ain't nobody listening to. It's
every
it's it's a
Monday. My
lot of
show,
people. It's a lot of people doing live podcasts right now by
nah,
themselves.
listen,
Ain't nobody
every,
listening.
every Monday
Unfortunately, I
I do
want more
this
for them. I
show.
want more for them.
Yeah, listen, every Monday I do this show. I make it 8 people. I make it 10 people. I make it two
That's
people. I make
cool
it one
because it's gonna be
person.
the right 8 people
But
or the
I'm
right 10 people.
consistent. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So, whoever's here is here. Whoever ain't, okay, well, you catch it later because it replays on YouTube and it's playing right now on my other site, Uptown with Mona, the website.
it's fresh. I mean,
Yeah.
would you rather reach 1,000 people or would you rather reach 10 people 1,000 times deeper?
I'd rather reach those that want to hear it, that want to be
Right,
here and want to
right.
listen. And that I'm fine with that. I don't, at first I used to be like, oh, nobody want to show up. Fuck that. Whoever's supposed to be here is gonna be here. And that's just what it is. What's up, Faraji? How you doing, sweetie? Give me a holler
What's
when you
up,
get
babe?
a minute. All right, number 14. What advice would you give to emerging poets looking to make their mark?
Man, I don't think nobody made them work yet, and I
Hmm.
don't think I'm in a position to tell anyone either. You know what I mean?
You're doing a good job, that's for sure.
Really, I think
Absolutely.
we're unfortunately after almost 30 years, I think we're still like pretty far off. Matter of fact, further, because like Gil Scott Heron was in the charts, right? He was on the, like he would be in the music charts with like the Isley Brothers and them, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And the Last Poets were traveling all over the world. They were doing
Hmm.
shows in like Belgium, you know.
Yes.
So and we're not really doing that right now. So in terms of making a mark, um, they say that, you know, the people who find success are usually too busy working to be chasing it, you know, to be looking for it. You
Wow.
know, I think it's something you don't look for. You know,
Yes.
I really think that the person who really makes the mark, those people who begin to make a real mark, you know, from the spoken word community, will be people who weren't even trying to make a
Mm.
mark. There'll be people who are really just had a serious work ethic and were constantly trying to get out there. I was
Right.
never more popular as when I performed almost every day. And
Mm.
then I would be in airports and people like, oh, wow, Taalam Acey. I mean, the TSA person or something would know exactly who I was. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
because I performed so much. I performed like every day. So even if I was only performing for 50 or 100 people, you know, if you're performing 300 times a year, you know what I mean? Just for 30,000 people, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm. I'd have to think about something like that. So now, but you are very well known in the poetry community, which would probably,
Depends on who you ask.
yeah. No, no, no. Believe me,
Depends on who
everybody
you
I
ask.
know that don't know, I guess maybe it depends on the
Ain't
era.
nobody on this earth ain't never walked up to somebody and they be like, yo, I never heard of you. You know what I mean? And some people
No.
think that it's supposed to be a diss or something. And in my mind, it's like, oh, fresh, you know, you get
Hmm.
to introduce yourself to somebody new, introduce someone new to your word. It's cool.
Right.
But in my case, yeah, I don't know. I'm one of those people talk about me, but they don't really talk to me. So
Mm.
90% or more of my life, especially now, is just me. You
Right.
know, I don't like talking on the phone. I don't really like respond. You know, I don't really interact with people like that. So I'm pretty
Right.
isolated. I mean, my wife, you know, she works, so
Okay.
I see her at night when she come home. But other than that, all day long and every day, it's just me.
And you write, maybe you be writing or something like that, writing? You be write, do you write while you're
Yeah,
home?
not traditional writing. I mean,
Okay.
I'm constantly writing in my head,
Okay.
but not just like the traditional where I sit down like, oh, here's my hour to write. I don't, you know,
Mhm.
not like that.
Right. I don't have hours like that either. Mine comes in spurts because I
Yeah.
don't write anymore. I don't write any. I don't really write anymore. Like I said, I may hear a line and be like, "Huh," and I'll write something, one line. I'll get back to it later, and that's how I've become. That's what I've become. I don't. I'm not a. I don't. Because I don't really go out anymore. I don't go out anymore. I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
I stay home a lot more. I'm home a lot more. You know.
It's crazy because even like tonight, I was like, man, I wanted to go to sleep, you know what I mean? But I
I
got this,
know.
I had obligated myself
I'm
to do
sorry.
this, you know.
I'm
I was
sorry.
like,
Listen, my
but when I
bedtime is
was
in
younger,
another
I didn't think
hour.
that way. When I was younger, I didn't think that way. But now it's like sleep is like the biggest deal. It's like the reward, you know. It's that reward,
Ah,
you know.
oh, that's funny because my bedtime is in another hour, so I definitely understand that. I'll be in bed by
Man.
9:30. My phone is
And I'm
off. I'm
cool
going
with
to
it. I
sleep.
ain't even trying to front. I ain't even at the
Me
club.
too.
You
Me
don't
too.
find me nowhere.
Hell yeah, I understand that. I definitely understand that. That is so funny. We have so much in common. We both go to
Yeah.
bed early
Yeah, I ain't
too.
got nothing to prove. I ain't got nothing to prove, nobody to meet, nothing. I'm good.
Hello, I'm telling you. Okay, number 15. Can you share any upcoming projects or collaborations you're excited about?
Yeah, yes and no. I'm working on
Mhm,
a piece. It's pretty much
mhm,
done. It's
mhm.
like I said, it's about 8 minutes, wrote it in my head like the others.
Right.
And I don't even want to say the name of it, but it's about Black men and what we mean to America.
Mhm.
And I hope that it will change some people's perception of who they are, or enhance some people's perception of who they are. And it was an idea that came about. It was something I was asked to write. The concept was given to me by a producer that I haven't even met in person yet. This cat
Okay.
from Houston, yeah, named Sir Dorsey.
Mm, never
And
heard.
yeah,
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
yeah, see, that's what I said. You know, everybody, and
Mm-hmm.
he got mad Grammys. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just how it is.
You
You know,
need a
he's
Grammy.
very
You should have
accomplished
got one.
himself.
You
I
should
don't
have
know if
got a
I
Grammy.
don't know if I need a Grammy.
No, I
I
think
don't
you
know if
should have.
there's
I think
yeah,
you
I don't
should
know
have
if there's
got
any
one.
I
You
don't know
should
if
have got
there's any forthcoming for me in the foreseeable future,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because there's a lot to it. You know what I mean? And I'm cool with that. You know, if that's to be, I can wait for it. You know, for whenever the time is right for that to happen, and I'll do it. I don't know that like you said, I need it. I think that when I made that decision back in the days where I wasn't going to write for the New Eurekan crowd, I'm gonna write
Right.
for the juke joint crowd. You know, when I made that decision, you know, a lot of things came with that, and I have a certain personality
Okay.
that doesn't lend itself. It turns my personality turns a certain type of personality off.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm the type of person that could be and have been, you know, for what it's worth. And, you know, when it was unfortunately had to happen, I'm the type of person that could be comfortable in jail. And, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
have been. You know, I ain't never been to prison. I ain't never spent like weeks or months in jail or nothing.
Right.
But I mean, in the times, you know, 2 or 3
Mm.
days, I've been pretty comfortable. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
that's my
Yeah.
personality. It's this personality that kind of works in that kind of environment. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't necessarily work in certain environments where it's important to be to have some level of fealty.
Got it.
You know, I don't necessarily have that.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay.
It's you know, Jinya May. You know, you fear none but God, right?
Mm.
You know, Jinya May is an Adinkra symbol. You know what I mean? You've seen it.
No, I didn't know. I
You
probably seen
you've
it,
seen
don't
it.
even know what it means. Probably
Yeah,
didn't know it
it
was
means
that type
none
of
but
sign.
God.
Mm-hmm.
It means none but and that could be a scary type of energy to entertain when someone feels that way.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see. Somebody said, hold on one second. Someone said, okay, never mind. I'm going to go to the next question. Next question. How do you envision the future of poetry and spoken word in the upcoming years?
I think it's going to change.
Okay.
Um, it's constantly changing and constantly evolving. But I
Yes.
think like your OB West, you know,
Mm. I
uh,
just interviewed him last week.
yeah, you know,
Interviewed him.
and I think people like him will take it into to different directions. I mean, he has a very interesting use of tone, timbre in
Mm.
his voice, and you know, pretty precise with how we have been precise more with rhyme or
Got it.
rhythm. He's more precise with like homonyms. You know,
Mm-hmm.
these words where um, like in my poem, when I say in franchise and language of disenfranchisement, I say if you're looking for me, I can usually be caught near the b-ball court, sipping a court, you know, and there's all three different courts. You know what I mean? Those homonyms. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Are you with me?
I
You with
am.
me, Mona?
Yeah, I'm
You
about
with
to
me?
give you some. I got some questions for you. That's why. I
What you
got
got?
I got some stuff here for you.
Go ahead, hit
Faraj
me.
Faraji says he's from Orange, New Jersey, and the home of Rob Peace, Thomas Edison, and and Faraji Salam. And who else? John Robinson says, I'm a huge fan of this brother.
Tell him I said thank you.
He can hear you.
Who is okay?
Um,
Yeah, all right. Well,
these are
Faraji,
just people.
Who's Rob Peace? I don't.
I have no. He's just people. These are just people that are watching the show. These are the audience.
Oh
This is your audience.
no, I thought you said home of. I know you said home of Thomas Edison, but I didn't know who Rob Peace was.
No, no, no. That was Tom. John Robinson said he's a huge fan of this brother. Who
Thank
else?
you to him.
Yeah, Faraji said Taalam Acey has the most prolific spoken word catalog of our generation of poets.
It's
Period.
because I had to
Full
make stuff to
stop.
eat.
He said he is the goat. And I definitely agree that he is the GOAT. You are the GOAT. Believe it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that was the 16 questions. So I want
Was
to
it
ask,
16? I got through
yeah,
16 questions.
you got
All
through
right, I'm gonna do
16
God's work so we
questions.
don't forget. You
I
ready?
need to do that piece because I can't wait to hear it. Let's
All
go.
right. What if this is God's work? What
Hmm.
if what if real poets walk the earth and live lives fit for a prophet's birth, spreading ancient wisdom like the Coptic Church, and those who know what they're hearing know that they're hearing something special. And perhaps eventually a poet will be sent here just to bless you, test you in this world of lies. And if you feel your eyes cry to me because they recognize it, what they're seeing is the truth. And the
Mm.
chills up your spine provide absolute proof that in this now, where politicians and clergy are proving themselves unworthy of your time, where television shows and music videos are proving themselves unworthy of your mind, don't be surprised to find that God is especially present in poetry dens,
Yes.
guiding poets, pens, and not just those men who pretend to be closer to God than you by making you ashamed of your sins when the lives that they live may not have been what God intends for your salvation. What if this is God's work? What if the creator realized that the creation isn't perfect, but only wishes for us to worship sincerely, to not be hypocrites, but to really be concerned about our fellow man, to stand up against injustices falsely perpetuated in God's name in foreign lands? What if this is God's work? What if the poets are closer to Muhammad, Buddha, and Jesus than the preachers? I said, what if the poets are closer to Muhammad, Buddha, and Jesus than the preachers? I mean, think about it, y'all. Which of us are living closer to the streets, and which of us are living closer to Caesar? Which of us are living high up on the hog, and which of us are the poor righteous teachers? What if this is God's work? And if so, then poetry is sacred. So ye poets, be concerned when you step up on this stage with and be on your job. Because if this is God's work, then stealing from another poet is the same thing as stealing from God. And it's not about your use of sexuality or profanity. It's about whether you use your tools for ahs and oohs, or whether you use your tools to improve humanity. What if this is God's work? I know blasphemous have hell to pay, so I wouldn't say anything on Mona's podcast tonight that I wouldn't be comfortable repeating on Judgment Day. What if this is God's work, y'all? Let us pray. That's that piece. And you
God
see how you
damn.
could sort of feel it, right? Like, but
Oh,
like
I
if you
feel
were,
it.
but I mean, I'm saying if you were, if we were in the same room, man, like
Yes.
I could, what I feel,
Yes.
you you would feel too if you were in, if this were a venue.
Yes.
Because when
Yes.
I'm performing and I feel something in my heart, then I know they're feeling it too. And
You are.
sometimes you get chills sometimes when you're performing it, and you know there's somebody out there getting the same chills. But you
Yes.
can't really, it's hard to communicate that
Mm.
like this.
Mm-mm. I love it. I mean, I want to thank you so much
Thank you.
for coming on this
Thank
show.
you.
I really appreciate you. My audience appreciates you. And I mean, oh, so what do you where can they find you? Give me all your
Oh yeah. Normally it's funny because in Atlanta, when they have like open mics, people at the end will say you can go to my Instagram, and I never do that, but I think
yes.
I want to turn over a new leaf and just try to tell people that you can go to my website, which is taalamacey.com,
Mm-hmm.
TAALAMACEY. The two
Mm-hmm.
A's, the double A's are before the L, TAALAMACEY.com. And people
Right.
say I got too many A's in my name. So you could put in Karma Poet, KARMAPOET.com, Karma Poet. You still get to the same website. You get to my site. And then I'm Taalam Acey, and in Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and um that's where you
Just
find me.
Talam. You
Yeah,
just
Taalam,
Talam
and you find
AC.
the book, Permission to Speak.
Yes.
Like I said, this is that source material where your next project is
Yes.
coming from, where all the
Yes.
elders are breaking it down. These are the two poetry books right here, compendiums, about 12,
Mhm.
13 years worth of work each with 300 pages a piece or so. And this
Wow.
is the album, is
Okay.
Thug Healer 2. It's a vinyl album. Two, it's a double album too.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where can they purchase those if they wanted to
And
purchase them?
all of those things can be purchased from my website, from taalamacy.com, or
Okay.
Karma Poet, KARMAPOET com. You can get them. Everything goes out within 2 business days.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so
yeah,
much. I
yo,
really
thank you. I
I
really,
appreciate
I
you.
was, I was, I didn't know how this was going to go,
I was a little
and
nervous. I was a little intimidated. I was like, okay, we're gonna get through this, for several reasons. I told you about my homegirl. My homegirl, and yeah, shit going kind of left with me sometimes. But I was just I was a little intimidated because of how highly I think of you.
well, thank you. Was because when you started, before we started recording, you was like, "Yo, remember that time the last I saw you and you was drunk?" I was like, "Yo, is this what this gonna be like?" So it's funny because
That's
I did a
no.
podcast like about 6 years ago. The sister was like, same thing, like we did. She's like, "Yo, let's talk a little bit before we go live," and we talk.
Yeah.
And then we go live, and she's like, "Yo, you remember that night you spent in my house?" I was like, "Yo, I don't remember nothing. Like, what are you talking about?" She's like, talking about 10 years ago, I had stayed at her house, but I was like, why didn't you bring that up like before? Like you did, how you did before we went. Yeah, she brought it up once we went live. I was like, yo,
Yeah, right.
I
Why didn't
don't
you bring that
even
shit
remember
up
being at the
before?
house.
Right. Why you brought that shit up now? Why couldn't you bring
Yeah,
it up
like
before?
what happened to testing them when we was testing the mic?
Thank you. That's what you're supposed to do. So I'll know
And to this
exactly what
day,
that
and to this day, I
Wednesday.
still don't even know what she was saying. Like, what did she say?
Oh my
Like,
God.
yo,
But thank you so much. I appreciate you. I have your information. I'm gonna stay in touch with you, and maybe we can do some work together, some music work together, or something sometime in the future.
perhaps I was jealous when you were talking about Kasim because I know I probably could not have turned over anything to you as quickly as he may have. It probably would take
No,
me forever.
no, actually, what he did was I have the music. I put my piece up. I sent him the piece. I said, listen, I need you to write this. He'll put it on and send it right back to me. It didn't take long to do that. It didn't take
No,
long.
the writing part, not the technical process of it. The
Well,
writing of it would probably take me
that
forever,
means, well, then
especially
that
now.
means, no, then that means if I needed you, I would give you time and I continue on with the rest of my project and get back to you in a few weeks.
All
I'm not
right,
in a
but
rush.
if you have any sympathy for me, don't need me.
Oh man, you're funny. But we'll talk soon, okay?
All right then.
All right, baby. You have a good night and peace and love to you and your family.
Thank
And we'll
you.
we'll definitely talk soon, okay?
Indeed.
All
Peace.
right, baby.
And I
Later.
apologize. My wife was calling to find out what I wanted for
No,
dinner.
don't worry about that. You
Yeah.
got to talk to your wife. You got to handle that.
Oh
That's
yeah,
first.
she run things.
That's first. She runs shit, right? All right,
Yeah.
baby. Take care.
All right.
Take
Peace.
care. Well, y'all, that is that. I hope y'all enjoyed the show tonight. I'm so glad you guys came through. Whew, what a show. Every week I go through the same thing. What a show. I'm just so grateful for everything. So thank you guys for listening to the show today. Thank you for being here and passing on the information. What else? December 16th. Don't forget about that date. December 16th at Comedy in Harlem, the Mocha Lounge reunion and all erotic poetry show. So don't forget, y'all got to definitely be there. If you want tickets, hit me up or you can go on Eventbrite. All right. So we'll talk later. I'm done for the night. It's my bedtime, and I will chat with y'all next Monday. Same bat time, same bat channel. And here we go. Later, guys. And that's a wrap for today's show, y'all. Thanks again for tuning in to Uptown with Mona. Be sure to join us again next week for another exciting episode. Until then, I'm your host, Mona Baudet, and I'm saying peace and love. Have a wonderful day. And that's a wrap for today's show, y'all. Thanks again for tuning in to Uptown with Mona. Be sure to join us again next week for another exciting episode. Until then, I'm your host, Mona Baudet, and I'm saying peace and love. Have a wonderful day.